Once in the bustling city of Lagos, a young girl named Ada lived a life woven with love, heartbreak, and regret. Her story, though filled with mistakes, teaches us about the value of family and the price of selfish pride. In the serene village of Nsukka, surrounded by emerald green forests and rivers that shimmered in the sun, a young girl named Ada grew up under the care of her loving aunt and uncle, Ebele and Chike. They had taken her in after the tragic death of her mother, Ebele's only sister, when Ada was just 3 years old. The family's home was modest but filled with warmth. The scent of freshly pounded yam and ogbono soup often wafted from the kitchen, blending with the earthy aroma of the rains that fell in the afternoon. Evenings were marked by the laughter of children chasing fireflies and the rhythmic hum of crickets. Ada grew up alongside her cousin Ifoma, who was 3 years older but treated Ada as her equal. Ada, you're my sister now, not my cousin, Ifoma would often declare, holding Ada's hand as they skipped to the nearby stream to fetch water. Their bond was unshakable, and Ebele and Chike sought to formalize it through legal adoption. But Ada's biological father, Ugochukwu, a man whose life had been marred by grief and alcohol, contested the process. Though he could barely care for himself, let alone a child, he refused to relinquish his parental rights. When Chike received a job offer in Lagos, the family was forced to leave Ada behind until the legal matters were resolved. On the day of their departure, Ada clung to Ifoma, sobbing. "Don't cry, Ada," Ifoma whispered, her own voice trembling. "I'll call you now. I'll call you every day. I promise." But promises couldn't fill the void left by their absence. Ada watched the dusty old station wagon drive away, the image of Ifoma waving from the window etched into her memory. Left in the care of Mama Ngozi, a strict but kind-hearted neighbor, Ada's material needs were met. She attended the best private school in the village, wore the finest clothes, and received video calls and gifts from her family. But none of it could replace their presence. As Ada grew older, whispers from her peers began to poison her thoughts. Hey! So you think they love you? If they loved you so much, why did they leave you behind? One girl sneered during lunch. They only send gifts to make themselves feel better, another chimed in. By the time Ada was 15, bitterness had taken root. She began skipping classes, spending time with girls who introduced her to petty theft and mischief. Her resentment festered into a quiet rebellion. "They abandoned me," Ada would tell herself. "Why should I care about them? Why should I be concerned answering phone calls of useless people that abandoned me in this village? They don't care. They are just liars, useless people." By the time Ada turned 17, the adoption papers were finally approved, and Chike and Ebele wasted no time in bringing her to Lagos. Ada boarded a bus to Lagos, her heart a mixture of excitement and apprehension. The city was overwhelming. The cacophony of honking cars, the towering buildings, the rush of people moving like waves in the ocean. At the busport, Ibele and Chike waited eagerly, their faces lighting up as they spotted her. Ifoma, now a university student, ran to embrace her. "Ada! Look at you, my girl, my sister! You are so big! Look how you have grown!" Ifoma exclaimed, tears brimming in her eyes. But Ada's response was cold. Thank you. Even seed with a dash for ground go grow if water catch 'em now." Her response confused Ifoma, but she brushed it off as just tiredness from the trip. Their home in Lekki was a far cry from the village. The spacious house was adorned with polished wooden furniture and curtains that danced in the sea breeze. Her room was decorated in soft pinks and whites, with the wardrobe filled with new clothes. But Ada felt no gratitude. Months passed, and Ada's behavior became increasingly volatile. During one dinner, she lashed out, slamming her fork on the table. You people act like saints, but you left me to rot in that village. Do you know how hard it was for me? Now you are here trying to act like mommy, daddy, sister. What is it, eh? Leave me be. Leave me just the way you left me in that village. Ebele's voice quivered as she replied, Ada, we did everything we could to bring you here. You know now. We never stopped thinking of you. We spoke to you every day. Thinking of me? Ada scoffed. You only cared about your image. You know people would look at you as bad if you didn't at least, send those useless nonsense gifts that you were sending me. I beg you. Ifoma tried to intervene. Ada, that's not true. Mommy and Daddy love you. You should have seen how they were crying. The process took so long. Even me myself, my heart was broken. You know we missed you now. We love you. Ada glared at her. Ha! Hey, hey! Look who is talking. Mommy's girl. You wouldn't understand. You had them all to yourself while I was left behind. And you are talking like you can understand my pain. You don't know what I feel. Shut up, Joe. Her words cut deep, and the tension in the household grew unbearable. Ada's rebellion escalated. She began skipping university classes, partying late into the night, and demanding expensive things. Oga, I need a car, she declared one evening. Chike hesitated. Ada, that's a big responsibility. If you cared for me like you care for Ifoma, you wouldn't think twice, she interrupted, storming off. Fearing she might harm herself, Chike reluctantly bought her the car, but Ada used it for joyrides with her reckless friends. One fateful night, she crashed into a tree, killing a passenger and leaving her family devastated. When they confronted her about her actions, all she could do was scoff and insinuate that had it been Ifoma that committed this crime, they would have done everything in their power to get her off, so they should do the same for her. Months later, Ebele and Chike received a wedding invitation from Ada. They were shocked. She hadn't mentioned a boyfriend, much more a fiancé. And moreover, none of the traditional rites or introductions were done. They tried calling her, texting her severally to no avail. So they were left with no other choice to show up at her wedding, hoping they could convince her to do things the right way. On the day of her wedding, with gifts in hand, the family dressed and went to the venue. At the wedding hall, they were greeted by a lavish display. Gold-threaded drapes, chandeliers that sparkled like stars, and tables adorned with jasmine flowers. The groom, Rajesh, was an Indian businessman that Ada had met online. He seemed charming enough, but distant. His mother was draped in a crimson sari as she barked orders in a language no one understood. Though everything seemed beautiful on the surface, the gnawing feeling of concern still panged at the family's stomach. After asking a few questions, they were directed to the bride's dressing room. Upon getting to Ada's dressing room, they were instructed that only Ifoma was allowed to enter. This broke Ibele and Chike's heart, but they thought if anyone could get through to Ada, it would be Ifoma. In the bride's room, Ifoma pleaded with her. Ada, why didn't you tell us about this man? Do you even know him? Are you sure about this? Ada smirked. Ify, not everyone wants to live a boring life like you. Rajesh loves me. You wouldn't understand. I mean, it's only people who have a man can relate to my situation. Besides, why are you worried about me? My life is finally starting and I don't need your approval. Against their wishes, the wedding proceeded. Married life was far from the fairy tale Ada had imagined. Rajesh's family treated her as a servant, demanding she prepare elaborate meals and adhere to their customs. Rajesh himself was cold and controlling, dismissing her concerns with a wave of his hand. One evening, after a heated argument, Rajesh slapped her. "You will respect me and my family!" he snarled. She spent the night crying silently, longing for the love she had once scorned. One day, Ada fled back to Ibele and Chike's home, only to find it empty. The gateman handed her a bundle of letters. "Madam, they moved to America now. I thought you knew," he explained. Sitting on the steps, Ada read through the letters, each one filled with love and forgiveness. Tears streamed down her face as she realized the depth of her sacrifice. Months after Ada had returned to her husband's house, she received word that Ibele and Chike were visiting Nigeria. Her heart leapt with mixed emotions, hope, guilt, and shame. She hadn't spoken to them since their move, despite the countless calls and messages they had sent. One afternoon, she walked through the bustling streets of Lagos. A small cafe caught her attention. Inside, seated at a corner table, were Ibele and Ifoma. Ada hesitated at the door, unsure of what to say or how to approach them. Ifoma was the first to notice her. "Ada!" she exclaimed, standing so quickly that her chair nearly toppled over. Ibele turned, her face softening into a mixture of relief and sorrow. "Ada, my daughter," she whispered. Ada stood frozen, her chest heaving as tears blurred her vision. Slowly she walked to the table and sank to her knees. "Mama, Ifoma, I'm sorry. I'm sorry," she choked out, her voice breaking. "I've been so blind, so ungrateful. Please, forgive me. Mama, forgive me." Ibele knelt beside her, wrapping her arms around her trembling daughter. "Ada, you are my child. No matter what has happened, I will always love you." Ifoma joined the embrace, her own tears falling freely. "We've missed you, Ada. We've prayed for this day." Encouraged by her family's forgiveness, Ada finally confided in them about the abuse she endured in her marriage. The marks on her arms, hidden beneath long sleeves, told a story she could no longer bear to keep secret. Ebele's face darkened with fury. "Ada, you cannot go back to that man. You deserve better than this." "But Mama, I made this choice," Ada whispered. I don't want to burden you again." "You have never been a burden." Chike's voice rang out as he entered the cafe, having just arrived. "We failed to protect you once. We won't let it happen again." With her family's support, Ada gathered the courage to leave her marriage. The process was long and filled with challenges, but she found solace in their unwavering presence. After the divorce, Ada moved in with her parents, who had returned to Nigeria to help her rebuild her life. Days were spent in therapy, reconnecting with her family, and rediscovering her passions. One evening, while sitting with Ifoma under the old guava tree in their backyard, Ada finally smiled. A genuine, unguarded smile. "I feel like I'm starting my life again," she said softly. Ifoma squeezed her hand. "You are always there, Ada. You just needed time to see it." Ada's journey was far from easy, but it taught her the true meaning of family, unconditional love, forgiveness, and resilience. Through her pain, she discovered her strength and the importance of cherishing those who genuinely care. Moral of the story: it is never too late to seek forgiveness, heal old wounds, and reclaim your life. True family will always stand by you, no matter the distance or the mistakes you've made. Thank you so much for listening to another one of my stories. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Drop a comment down below how you think things should have turned out for Ada. Did it go well with them welcoming her back into their lives? Should she have suffered more? And what do you think should happen to Rajesh and his family for their horrible treatment of Ada in spite of her arrogant behavior? I can't wait to catch up with you guys on the next video. Meet me in the comments section. Let's talk about the story.